one thing I think that helped, and I promise you this is like a humble brag, but I never blew an account. I never went to zero.
Welcome everyone back to the Words of Rizdom Podcast. We are still in Miami, but we finally got an actual studio. And today's guest is actually Tori Trades, who we got to see in the summit, but now we get the chance to actually have a proper podcast, a full-length podcast. So, Tori, thanks for accepting to do this again, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very official. This is my first official podcast ever, so this should be very interesting.
It should be, yeah. No, I appreciate that, and it's an honor to be able to host you for the first ever podcast. But we did get to go into it very, very briefly at the summit when we did our sort of Miami series episode. But let's do a little bit more in-depth into your journey then.
Yeah.
Just to sort of get people up to date, especially for those who don't know who you are, of how you got to where you are today.
So I got into trading solely because my uncle trades. Otherwise, I would not be here today. I would have probably pursued marketing maybe, or something in the fashion, beauty industry, something of that nature. But my uncle taught me how to trade. I've been doing it for 8 years now. And everything that I have done and am doing up to today is because he has also done it. So I have a very clear path of where I want to go and what it's going to take to get there. And so even from, the beginning of my journey where I started with stocks, it's because my uncle was trading stocks. And because I started in the 5-minute, it's because he was trading in the 5-minute. Now he's made the transition to futures, and I too have made the transition to futures. So everything that I've done and am doing now is because my uncle has taught me how to do it.
Amazing. And what was that like then? Well, when did you first sort of observe him doing the trading side of things?
So this is funny. I went out with some guys last night, and we were talking about the phrase "order filled," and I grew up listening to that. Grew up listening to it. Every time I would, my uncle's in his like little trading room, I'd hear it all the time, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" And I'd peek in this room, and it felt like I shouldn't be in there. Like tons of monitors, and I'd see charts all over the place, and I'd hear that "order filled," and it's absolutely ingrained into my brain.
This is like a subconscious thing from growing up.
Oh yeah,
around it.
Very much so.
And when did you start to sort of pique that curiosity and ask and start to gain the mentorship and guidance, if you will?
I was always curious as to what my uncle did growing up, because he was home all the time, which was strange because I mean, a lot of dads will go to work, clock in 9 to 5. He was home all the time. And I'm like, okay. And he would take our family on trips. And I'd be like, okay, we'd be going to Disney World. We're going with Uncle Mike. Or so he had a lot of freedom, a lot of time, and just a very humble, down-to-earth person, calm, which seems odd for like a day trader, but just incredible. And I'd say I had always been curious what he did. Even, I'm trying to think, even 17, 18, 19, I wasn't really curious enough to be like, can you teach me what you do? Or even really ask him what he did. It wasn't until I think it was early 20s, maybe 20, 21, 22-ish, where my sister was living with my uncle at the time, and she had asked me if I wanted to help her with this project that my uncle was doing, and he wanted to record him teaching her how to trade. And I was like the techie person of the family, so I knew how to unplug the router for Wi-Fi and plug it back in. Everybody thought I was like this genius. I'm the techie person. But so they asked me to come help on the project. I ended up moving in with my sister and my uncle and my aunt and my cousin. We all lived in his house together, and he dedicated the time. So now not only is he teaching my sister how to trade, but he's teaching me how to trade too. So this entire process, he's teaching us, we're recording the process, and what that looked like was we would, wake up in the morning, and he started most of our learning journey was psychology, very right off the bat. Very first thing actually was, you're going to be a loser and you're going to like it. It was like, that was step one, phase one of the process. Then we finally were able to start getting into the charts and going over the strategy. And this year-long process, and now here we are, 8 years later, and I'm actually making it work.
No, definitely. And during that process, I remember you saying about the project. Is that footage anywhere? Or?
Oh yeah, very much so. It's the coolest thing. So I don't know if my uncle's website is still active. It's been a while, but he had a platform called Trading Template, and we recorded the whole thing, and he, made it to the public, and I look like 16 years old. I got like this super long hair. I even remember in the videos, I'm trying to stay focused, but it's been like a long day, and I'm going back and watching myself. I'm like, pay attention, Tori. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're on camera. So yeah, no, that's available.
That's be like cool to be able to. I bet it's cool to reflect back.
Very much so.
It's quite rare that people have that sort of documentation from the start of their journey.
Yeah.
A lot of people start maybe like midway or towards when they're getting that profitability towards the end. So to have that documentation must be good. Does your sister still trade as well?
Negative. He's tried to teach everyone in our family. His daughter, his sons, other cousins, nieces and nephews, friends. No one has been able to actually stick with it. And that goes to show like how if you just use the stats of our family specifically, I'm sure that translates exactly into trading itself, like how many people actually make it. It's wild. It
is. And what made you stick to it then?
I maybe have an obsessive personality. I spent the year learning first, and then there was the simulating trading and trying to make it actually profitable. Once I got to like year 3, it was pretty pivotal. I was like, okay, I've invested this much time. Am I truly going to give up after 3 years of like, there's no way I can do that? Or like year 3, year 4-ish, I was like, there's no way I can try something else now. Like dedicating that much time into something, I've got to give it my all. So that was like the pivotal moment where, okay, I became more consistent, more profitable, consistently profitable. And that was a incredibly pivotal moment.
So you went through that process then of the demo/simulated trading.
Yeah.
What was the process of learning them for you?
Fairly easy because I had someone like tangible, touchable that was like here showing me like, okay, this is how you simulate. This is the program you're going to download. This is what I use. This is how we place a trade. I mean, I had everything. I had all of the resources I possibly needed. The tricky part is I did possess enough discipline, and maybe that's because my uncle was incredibly strict, but he was like, you are not going live. You're not going to do it. Now, he also made it very clear that when you do go live, it's going to feel different. Like losing money is going to feel like an actual smack instead of just this fake money. So, but I had an incredible amount of discipline to stay in the simulated markets for a year. So I had to make sure that I knew the strategy like the back of my hand before I ever even put live money. And I think that's one of the hardest things for traders because they want to just start making money right here, right now. So they want to put it, let's put some real money on the line here. Yeah. I had the discipline to go ahead and just stick out that entire year of just simulating.
Perfect. No, you're 100% right. Like a lot of people do rush. It's a weird one because it's like there's always a balance. There's the people who rush straight away, but then I've seen the opposite where people just get stuck on the simulation.
Fair, yes. Too nervous to get in. Yeah.
So it's just I find that with a lot of things in trading that there's always polar sides, and it's kind of what you said, what you mentioned about your uncle being a very calm person, and it being surprising being a trader. But I think that's kind of what makes it successful is when the person's able to stay calm. Versus the people who are very emotional on either side.
I agree totally.
But what were the key moments in, say, that learning process? Maybe some of the harder moments, right, that kind of stick out to you, that helped you actually. They may have been lows at the time, but they actually led you to, say, highs or progress.
I would say the very first actual, like, pivotal, heart-wrenching moment in my trading was when I thought I was ready to make that transition to live, and I did it. I went from simulated to live a year later, and then a few weeks later, I was not doing well. I was taking some hard losses. I had to humble myself and be like, I got to go back to simulating. How awful to like that much preparation. You're like, okay, I've got this year simulating. It's time to do it. I'm doing it. And then to see that like I couldn't handle it. I wasn't ready. And I remember like I cried in my bed and I was like, I really thought I was ready. Like it was just such a shitty day. I was like, damn, this sucks. And so I had to go back to simulating until I did finally make that second transition. And then I was able to go live.
What do you feel like was the difference then between the first time and then the second time? What preparation or change, made it possible to then stick at it afterwards?
I would say maybe having that self-awareness to realize that, you know what, I'm not ready to be live this time. And to see it and to go back to simulating, it truly is maybe more so it feels like it than it's saying it, but what a humbling thing to be like, you're telling yourself you're not ready. Like, that just sucks. Nobody wants to hear that, especially you to yourself. But I think the second time around, I had that self-awareness. I was like, okay, like, I think we're ready. We are ready. We're ready. I had the confidence, like, we did it.
No, definitely. And then from there, what was the process like of building out your strategy or edge, for example? Because what you were in, was it stocks originally?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I'm in FX mainly. I have limited knowledge of like options and stocks.
Same. No knowledge with options or crypto here.
That's absolutely fine. I feel like there's like principles that translate a lot, but would the principles of like, the thinking probabilities, the edge, collecting data in terms of like journaling, are these things like the same in stocks and now futures as well?
Yeah, translates over completely, seamlessly, as if there is no difference. The only difference would be that the stock market closed and I had to make sure my uncle made sure that I was terrified to leave a trade open after market close, because first thing off the bat, he was like, if a market or if an instrument, whatever you're trading, a stock gaps, there's a possibility you could blow an account in a gap. I mean, depending on how much, how many shares you're trading. But he made me terrified. So I made sure there was no doubt that any of my trades were held, after market hours. That's the only difference between. But as far as like the strategy and, the chart analysis, you could show me a chart and it could be, either one, and I'd trade it exactly the same.
Okay. And in terms of getting to like the consistently profitable stage, what process did you go through to get to that? What were the sort of key things that you had to use or learnt that led you to that?
I would say there were times where I didn't quite take trading as seriously, and I think I was able to figure out it was because maybe I had someone come to me and teach me how to trade without me going out and seeking how to learn and, putting my own money into like education and investing my own hours, like something. It just wasn't something that I sought out to do. I had it come to me, and I think that changes like the motivation with things. Like, you can teach anyone how to do anything, but it's the ones that actually want to learn how to do it or actually seek out how to do it that make it or are successful in it or even want to continue to do it. So there were so many times in like these years of me trying to become consistent or consistently profitable that I wasn't consistent with my trading. I'd take weeks off. I was working, other jobs. I'm sure there was like a month that I would take off. And when I finally was like, okay, this is not working. You cannot be inconsistent with your trading and expect to be profitable. So I made it, it was like a switch. I was like, okay, we're going to be consistent with this. And same with my social media. Did the same thing. I was like, we're going to be consistent. It turns out that's all it takes. You flip that switch and you're like, okay, we're going to be consistent. And that truly was it, because I had the strategy down. I wasn't consistent with my trading, where I use a breakout trend line support and resistance system. And if you're not consistent with it, when you get caught up in the fake outs, you're not able to, vocabulary words. You're not able to capitalize on the winners that the strategy is actually helping you for. So I wasn't consistent with my trading. And then finally, when I flipped that switch, I was like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do it consistently and we're going to actually give this an honest effort. And that truly made the change there.
Definitely, yes. And I understand. So like the daily consistent effort, because, you hear a lot of people say that they've been trading for 4 years or 5 years, and it sounds like a long time.
Yeah.
But then if you actually like dive deeper into it, you'll realize that out of those 4 years, let's say 2 of them, not a full 2 years in a row, but like breaking it down, as you said, they might have taken 3 months on, 2 months off. So then when you break it down, they're actually 2 years out of the 4 didn't count.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
So like I'm a big believer as well in terms of like consistent effort every single day, no matter what it is you're doing in life. It could be just a personal goal, not even like entrepreneurship or finance, for example. The best way to go about it is just every single day.
Yeah.
Make it part of your lifestyle.
And even if it's not even actually putting it into play, having it in the forefront of your brain, like every day, even if you're not actually trading or actually even maybe you're looking at the charts and not actually placing trades, having it in the forefront is just, it's as simple as that. That could be consistency.
It's just something, it's something, even if, like, as you say, it might not even be that you're trading the charts. It could be that you're actually, on that particular day, doing a 20-minute online seminar on psychology, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's related to your trading. It's there, as you say, at the forefront of your mind. It's a focus point.
Yeah.
It's a priority,
yeah.
which I think is very important. Now, in terms of your journey as well, as you mentioned about working jobs, What was that like then, trying to balance obviously the jobs while learning to trade? And same with like finances as well. Was it a case where when you were first learning, maybe there wasn't a lack of finances? And was it a case that when you got consistent, did you have to put like a financial foundation in place, have savings, or did you just try and trade and build and use that to start to save, etc.?
So I did try to do everything at once. Try to make trading work and work, other jobs on the side. And it was doing the 9 to 5 and trading. I think maybe my idea was that I obviously wanted to make trading my main source. I didn't want to work anymore. I wanted to stay at home. I didn't want to have to work at the YMCA and smile at everyone and be like, welcome to the Y. My cheeks would get freaking tired. I did it all day. And there were other things that I would do. Like I worked in restaurants and a lot of YMCA work, a lot of work with my kids. Did hair school. There's so many things that I had to do while trying to make trading work. And finally, when I decided to be consistent with the trading, and I had to build capital first. It just wasn't going to work thinking that you're going to just one day be able to make that, split from being a full-time trader to, 9 to 5. I had to build capital first. Absolutely. So working 9 to 5s, making sure that I'm building that trading capital. And one thing I think that helped, and I promise you this is like a humble brag, but I never blew an account, never went to zero. So there was always that, even if it was the slightest bit, profitable consistently. It was there and building, but just not at the rate that I wanted. But finally, when I had enough capital to put in, then I was like, okay, I can do this. I can finally make this transition.
What capital amount was that? Yeah,
5K.
5K.
Yeah, which at the time it took a while to get there. I was living in San Diego and rent's high and minimum wage wasn't. It took a while to get just even that 5K.
And what does the trading look like now then? Now that we've transitioned from that stage, gone through the learning process, and had to struggle with the working, for example. Before we get to actually where the trading is now, a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
Trying to learn, trying to build their consistency and working a job. What struggles did you face when doing it? But then also, what would you advise others to make it, maybe not easier, but to manage that?
I would say, I think it was the same for me when I had this idea in my head that I would just maybe have like one big trade and then I'd be able to, be a full-time trader. Or you just thought that there was going to be this day where you made the split. And I think truly, one, you've got to have the capital. You got to have the capital. And a lot of people preach this. Don't trade money that you can't lose. I would say having multiple streams of income helps. So working, whether that's multiple jobs, whether that's like something you're doing on the side, of passive income, it plays such a huge role in your trading. One, it takes the pressure off of your trading, so then you can actually work on the strategy itself. But having multiple streams of income and having that, core amount saved up is going to be the best way to get you from 9 to 5 to full-time trading.
So talking about your trading now, I know you talked about making the transition from stocks over to futures. You already mentioned that. Obviously, your uncle made that transition too, so it was kind of natural for you to follow along too. But also, was there anything else, or like a motivation or a different style of trading that was sort of a motivation to make that change?
Yeah, I would say the trading hours were huge, so I didn't have to close my position at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because I was in California at the time. I didn't have to get up that early if I truly didn't want to. So I think the main thing was the trading hours and the volatility. There was a little bit more volatility in the futures market, which made it feel better and easier as a day trader because sometimes the stock market seems so stagnant and you've only got a few hours to place these day trades. So I think the volatility and the hours were the two biggest things for me.
Definitely. And, when did you start to document your journey? In terms of social media and stuff. I know obviously your uncle documented the very beginning.
Oh no, we got day one. It would be, if I go back far enough, there was a moment in time, and we talked a little bit about this on our little mini podcast, but there was a moment in time where on social media it was not okay to talk about finance or how much money you make. It was a very uncomfortable thing. It wasn't polite. It was like a rude thing or maybe you're bragging. It was not an okay thing to talk about. And at some point in time that changed on social media and I was kind of aware of that. I could start to see people talking about how much money they make and how they generate income. And so it made it easier to post about this. It didn't feel strange. But I think I've been doing it on the plane ride here, I was reminiscing on some like archives on my stories, and those were 2015, 16, 17.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I've been documenting it for a while now.
You have it. What was the motivation behind it?
The documentation,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I had a very clear idea of how far I was going to get with trading.
Mm-hmm.
So I already knew this is a great idea to start documenting these tiny little trades that I'm making in the start of this, because my uncle had been incredibly encouraging, and maybe it's him just, giving me a little extra motivation, or maybe he truly saw that I was going to make it far in trading. And he would tell me all the time, he's like, listen, you're going to be better than I am one day. And I truly believed that. So I documented my journey. Now, I did thoroughly enjoy social media. I have always documented everything. If you go back and see me 7 years old, I got a VHS camera recorder, and I'm like, hi guys, welcome to the news. I would have so much fun. Always documented every part of my life. So it just made sense to incorporate trading into this as well.
Definitely. And, I've seen that you do lots of different content types. You've done live streams, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've done just your usual sort of short form content. I also saw at one point you were doing like interviews, right?
Yeah.
For like a prop firm, like doing the people's payouts interviews, right?
Yeah.
So did you enjoy that process? Was it fun to be able to speak to all these different traders? And a lot of people try and say that, how do you trade and you create content, right? How do you find the time to do all these things?
Oh my God, it is not that hard. So many people are like, there's no way if you were actually successful in trading that you would be posting about it or taking the time to make content. I have so much time on my hands. What are you talking about? Now I don't know the same for you. You are doing this at a much higher level. But as far as me, recording a video or an hour live stream is incredibly easy. Now I have been able to now divvy out the time to know where I have a video editor that I don't have to spend the hours editing. But there's absolutely a point in time where I've always had time to create content, for sure.
And then with social media, you get different personalities, different, obviously, opinions. And no doubt you got a lot of supporters.
Yeah.
But also comes the opposite side, as we talked about earlier. There's always two sides. So the opposite side with a lot of haters or negativity. So how do you handle that?
That was... Oh, and you know what? I'm going to be honest. I feel like I forgot part one of that question about the interviewing the other traders.
Just do you enjoy the process? Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Dude, that was also... It did play a really big role, so I do want to touch on that a little bit. It was the coolest experience. So that was the first time I'd actually been introduced to other traders, because before I had a very small bubble. I had my uncle. And like maybe I could talk to my sister a little bit about trading, and like my aunt sure a little bit too. But that was the first time I was actually talking to other traders. It was an incredible opportunity. Now, there were times where I would interview some of these traders, and I would be able to realize that, okay, maybe some of them kind of got lucky and they're trying to explain how they got lucky in a very like articulate way that is showing a strategy. But then there's other ones that I could just have talked to for hours, because I didn't have much experience with other strategies. So I truly was fascinated to hear, okay, what strategy do you use? How does it work? What's your psychology like? And it made it very easy to do, high quality interviews, because I was truly fascinated by each one of these traders. So that was an incredible start to like getting to know other traders and other strategies. And this will be a great segue to the next question is, I didn't have much experience with other strategies, or even like crypto or options or Forex for that matter. I did get to trade Forex for maybe a very short amount of time. And that was me experimenting between like a 3 to 6 month period before I made the transition to futures. But I didn't have experience with other strategies. So to hear what other people use and to find out that there's like hundreds, if not thousands of strategies that you can use to trade. And when I did finally make it public what strategy that I use, I had no idea that I was even supposed to be insecure or that it was a vulnerable thing. I had no idea. So I immediately was like, hey guys, okay, cool. I'm Tori. I use a trend line trading and support and resistance strategy. I got so much pushback. I didn't even know that was going to happen. I had no idea that was even a thing. So I had got pushback on, there's no way you can be profitable and just use trend lines. There's no way you know what you're talking about if you just use trend lines. I'm like, whoa. So I had to take a huge step back. So that was like me diving headfirst into the community and then like taking an immediate like step back. I was like, oh my God, first of all, that hurt. Ow. Now I'm insecure about my strategy. I'm like, oh my God, is everyone right? So there was this crazy cycle that I had to go through of like being insecure and not confident in my strategy and second guessing my trading, then to like taking a step back and be like, okay, wait, these people on the internet are not real. Half of them aren't even profitable or even trade much for that matter, or even are genuine people. They're just trolls, whatever it may be. I had to take a step back and realize, okay, I've been doing this for a very long time, very long time. I need to come back, bring that confidence back, and so it was a crazy cycle. It was tough, and I had no idea that was something that I could be or should be insecure about or vulnerable about. And then I finally came back full circle. I'm like, okay, yes, confidence is here. Yes, I do trade a trend line trading support and resistance strategy, and I am profitable. So it was quite a cycle.
So when you hear people say, like in comments, for example, like, oh, you're just a content creator and you don't trade, what is your sort of thought process when you see this? You know, and you are trading and you are making the content around trading too, and the people try and associate you making the content and associate that with you not trading. So
I would say at first I took it incredibly personally and thought that this was just because I was a female in the industry, but I'm coming to find that they accuse all trading creators or influencers of that. So I did take it very personally at first, and I'm like, do you guys truly think that, how do you think that I come up with this stuff? Or how am I this educated or this fluid in my strategy in the markets and psychology? How can I make that up? There's no possible way if I'm not an actual trader. Now maybe they don't believe that I'm profitable or whatever it may be. Maybe they're like, yeah, she has been doing it for this long, but she's not profitable. I think it's all noise. I truly have learned to block all of that out. Your path is your path, and the people that you are, helping educate or even share your journey to is going to benefit from this, regardless of all the haters out there that are saying, traders, if you're truly profitable, you shouldn't be making content, or you don't have the time to make content if you truly were profitable.
And as you mentioned earlier about getting hate for being a female trader, there does seem to be a sense of potentially, if there's a female content creator or a female trader who is active online or even on a podcast, there are certain comments that I saw on an interview I did with Funding Talent Jessica, where they were commenting on, like, oh, I never trust a female trader or never trust a female CEO.
Right.
And I didn't understand it personally. But is that something you've experienced in the trading industry?
Let's take a break for a minute there, guys, because I want to tell you about our other sponsor, TradeZella. Now, TradeZella is something I only wished I had during my journey, because I would have saved myself so much time and, more importantly, money, because TradeZella is the greatest automated journaling software on the market. That's right, automated. All you have to do is connect your MetaTrader 4, MetaTrader 5, and it will pull up all of your data with all your statistics. It goes so in depth from obviously your losses, the days, the times. It allows you to bar replay so you can actually see that trade as if it was live. Absolutely incredible. It's an absolute game changer for everyone's trading journey. Without data, how can you make a statistical edge? I went through so much time without collecting data, without journaling. And why was that? Because most people find journaling very tedious, when in reality, why not have it automated and all done for you? All you do is just add the notes. As part of TradeZella, you also have playbooks. So if you have different entry drills, you can list them all out so you can categorize your trades. TradeZella is for everyone, whether you trade options, whether you trade Forex, whether you trade prop firms, or even just your own personal account. It is here to revolutionize the trading journey. Make sure you click the link in the description below and use the code RIZ10 for 10% off. Go take a look at the link in the description. Let's get back to the episode.
1,000%, absolutely. I think the one that really hurts me to my core is like she's not actually making money from trading, she's making money somewhere else, or she's actually only making money from her content and she's not making money from trading, or she's doing other things. There's been so many. That one just hurts me to my core because it's so unfair. I can't win. I can't win in that sense. I can show profits, I can show, monthly P&Ls, I can show trades. I can't win. There's no way, or I could not show them. So either way, that's a point where I can't win no matter what I do. There's always going to be the people saying that I don't make my money from trading, I make it elsewhere.
And being in a male-dominated industry, how's it been for you? Being especially on the content side of things and sort of putting yourself out there, because obviously you probably wouldn't feel any sort of difference if we weren't in the space, if you will.
Yeah.
But being in the space, how's that been for you? What hurdles have you had to overcome, if any?
I would say one of the biggest ones, and on the way here to this podcast, I was reading through some of the comments on our little mini podcast. And at first, like I'm looking at it pretty early on, so there's not too many comments. But at first, I'm like, okay, sweet. This is the first time like nobody has commented on the way I look. I was like, oh, sweet, this is cool. And then like I refresh, and there it is. Whether it's good or bad, it just isn't relevant. And I'm curious as to like, okay, when you post your content, I feel like people don't talk about what you look like. Like I feel like they're not like he shaved today, or he's getting a little scruffy, or like no one's talking about that. But as soon as I get on there, it's at the forefront. My content, what I have to offer, what I have to say has nothing to do with what I look like. So whether it's good or bad, I don't find it helpful. And it doesn't help other females get into this space because they already think they're going to start posting content and immediately just get, objectified, or the way that they look is more important than what they're actually saying. That's been one of the biggest struggles for sure.
No, definitely. Like on average, people don't comment on what I look
I didn't think so.
Only if I have like a polarizing piece of content, then it's already made them emotional.
Fair.
So then they will try and attack me to think that it's going to make me emotional, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
I had a shaved head for a period of time on
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
People are like, oh, you're bald. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, oh, you're overweight. I was like, cool.
Yeah, truly.
But I get your point though, because even for me, like I know I've done that polarizing content, but like what we did wasn't polarizing content,
Yeah.
And generally speaking, it's not the norm, I would say, for me to experience that.
Yeah.
But what you touched on there, which I think is very important and something that I've recognized as well, really strangely though, especially on Twitter, when there's female traders tweeting, maybe they're just tweeting, maybe it's a picture, or maybe it's even just generally trading talk, But then there's all these inappropriate comments. And that's what's in the public domain. So you can see the inappropriate comments. So I want to ask you, like, what's that been like? Have you experienced that as well? Especially not only the comments, but maybe like the DMs as well. And how do you not combat that? Because I guess there's not much you can do. But like, what's the thought process? How does that feel?
Yeah. It's quite triggering, especially. And going back to people saying that I'm not making my money from trading and I'm making it elsewhere. Like one of the most triggering ones that is, she's got an OnlyFans. There's no way she's actually trading. She's definitely got an OnlyFans. Or the fact that I get asked it so often. It's so inappropriate. If I had an OnlyFans, don't you think I'd be talking about it? I've got enough of a following. But it's inappropriate. It never makes me feel good. And I tried to address it. I was like, you know what, maybe if I address this will help. I said something on Twitter, something like, I don't find it appropriate for you guys to ask me if I have an OnlyFans. And then I had so many that were like, it's a compliment. Take it as a compliment. Or they're like, OnlyFans isn't just for what you think it is. There's, you could post about trading on there. I'm like, really? Really? No, I don't think so. So it's incredibly inappropriate. It doesn't make me feel good. My content is trading. It's not about how I look. It's not beauty. I'm not talking about how I do my hair or the clothes that I wear, or it's trading. And it's very unfair. And I think that that's probably a huge reason as to why not many women are going to put themselves out there and talk about trading. Now, I'm sure there are so many other things, the fact that it's just a male-dominated industry, but oh my God, it doesn't make it any easier, especially for them to maybe, like, Twitter sure could be different if they are just talking about trading, but if they want to actually, like, become a content creator and put themselves in front of the camera, that's such an intimidating space, so intimidating. So it absolutely doesn't help. I thought that maybe addressing it would help combat it, but I don't think there's anything I can do here. The DMs are never fun. I've stopped reading them at this point, and I thought that maybe addressing it would help combat it, but so far I'm still trying to figure out what would help.
I think it's a lack of maturity. Even like with that same example with the Jessica episode, I know with her in particular, it's nothing to do with her being a woman, for example. With what happened with Funding Talent, this prop firm. I don't know if you're familiar with that story.
No.
Oh, sorry. So basically, there was a prop firm. It was quite early on, and it just collapsed. Basically, it collapsed. They didn't have the funds to be able to pay out the traders, and it collapsed.
Okay.
It just so happened the CEO was a woman called Jessica, and then you're getting comments like, oh, she looks like this, or never trust a woman, and I get it in the sense that that happened, but that happened 2 years ago. And for me, what I reflected on is this is why traders aren't successful. This is one viewpoint of why they're not successful, because they're still emotional after 2 years.
Yeah.
So imagine when that's just one loss that essentially the most they would have lost in that scenario would be whatever their challenge fee was
Yeah.
in terms of their physical loss.
Yeah.
What they're associating is maybe the payout they could have got as a loss.
Okay, I see.
And then they're holding this baggage. But yeah, what I recognized with that situation, and then just observing the space, especially with the interactions, like I said, with female traders in particular, there's a lack of maturity.
Yeah.
Lack of maturity, lack of guidance. And yeah, these people who do this, they're in trading. They're trying to say that I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. I'm going to be a high level, or high value man, essentially, is what their goal is most of the time, I would say. But yet they're acting in this way.
Yeah.
Which confuses me, because it's like, that's the complete opposite, and they're doing it in public as well a lot of the time. They're putting these comments in public. So it's like, I don't understand the mindset, right? I don't understand the mindset of what they're looking to achieve. But I think you're 100% right in terms of it being very off-putting. And I think, though we are seeing, I would say, I would obviously throw this question to you, really. Have you seen an increase in female traders over the years, over recent years?
I would say since my bubble was so small for so many years, I didn't get to see any at all, actually, for the longest time. The ones that I know now are still not very many. I think the very first female trader I found, I think she's also based in the UK, was Hannah Forex.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And that was so inspiring. Oh my God, I remember when I found her, I was like, this is real. This is so cool. It's not an old white guy. It trades. I was thrilled to find her. And I think it had been, even still years down the road, I didn't find anyone else. But I think it could be the fact that maybe now I have this bigger following on social media. So now I'm able to see more, or more are able to come find me. But before, didn't have much of a following. I had to go out and try to find these other women traders, and they didn't exist, or it was just hard to find them. But I think it could just be because I have this bigger following now, that I'm able to have access to these girls, or they are able to find me. I don't know if there truly are more now. I think I'm just able to see the few ones that are. And this was making me think earlier today. I'm like, okay, what can I do to get them in? What can I do to get them in space? What advice can I give them? And right now it seems like I'm trying to brainstorm as far as like the type of content that I put out, how I put the content out. Like, do I need to make it more girly pop? Like, do I need to talk about, fashion in some sense? I'm trying to figure out just how I can get more women in it, or at least make it feel safer. But I got some affirmation and some confidence and some reassurance from the few women traders that I got to meet at the event this weekend, that they were like, no, like, what you're doing is perfect. It's working. Like, continue to do exactly you, and women will gravitate towards it. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can get more women to the space, or at least what can I say to make it easier. And we talked a little bit about, on our little mini podcast, about what advice do I have for them. And I had mentioned it, like, ripping it off like a Band-Aid. I had to completely jump into the community for me to do it. I couldn't, because if I had just tried to maybe start to talk about my strategy a little bit, that would have scared me out. I would have been, no. I'd rather stick with, trying to be a cycling influencer or something of that nature, and still trade on the side. But I just did it. I went ahead and just went all out. I started posting a reel a day about it. And I was like, okay, I'm going all in. And if I hadn't, I don't think I would have continued to be in this space. So I think my advice for women is to just go all in. Go all in, but be aware. Maybe the fact that I had to do the trial and error can help you to be prepared. There's going to be pushback. They're going to talk about the way that you look. They're going to invalidate you. So maybe being prepared before you get in will help you block out the noise and make you more confident in continuing moving forward.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's some solid advice. And hopefully, the way I've always seen it is that the more examples that you can have, so like, it's like a proof of concept. So it's like you having your uncle, for example, probably would have definitely helped you along your journey to know this is possible because uncle's done it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Versus if there's a lack of representation of female traders, then it's much harder it's obviously not impossible, but it's much harder then to have that example, that proof of concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it's about you pushing yourself to be that example.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when you have that example, and that's why I think I say the same thing about, the scammers in the industry, and the fakes in the industry, and then the real in the industry. I say, like, the scammers and the fakes are very quick to post and be loud. The problem is the real traders and the real content creators, they're very quiet, reluctant. And so the more loud that the real traders can be, the more of an example that we will be able to see, which hopefully will then bring more of a change that we want to see in the industry.
That's fair.
And then it actually puts the fakes and the scammers on their back foot because they're fake and scammers, they won't be able to replicate that same energy and that same authenticity, you know. So I always try and push people who are genuine and you know, are wanting to do something. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be they just create a Telegram channel,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Or it's something bigger like a YouTube channel, and it's not just about content. It's even just, you know, hosting events in person, for example. It doesn't have to be a social media thing.
Yeah.
But we are in the social media age. You know, we're very much addicted to our phones to a degree, and you know, we're very much you know, the content we take in probably most of all is from our phones anyway. So
Yeah, agreed.
I think that's why, because sometimes you get this negative connotation of, oh, you want to be on social media. So like, you know, how I asked you the question about, you know, what people say when, how do you trade and do content creation?
Yeah.
Trading for me, for example, is just a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
If I want to trade, it's a couple hours a day. Especially for me, it's in the morning because being in the UK, I guess actually it's probably morning for you guys too. But for me, it's the morning for my routine. That leaves the whole rest of the day for me to strategize all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it goes to like for those that, let's say there's like a gym rat or there's somebody that loves working out. So if they start to work out and put a lot of dedication and time into working out, does that mean that they're not truly a profitable trader? Like you can find other hobbies or other things to do. Mine just happens to be social media. I truly do love creating content, being in front of the camera and creating, you know, this space for other female traders. But it could be anything. I could be cycling. I could be spending, you know, I mean, going on a bike ride. There's like, I've done some 4-hour rides. So like there's other things you can do to take up that time and take up that space and also trade. So I don't know why some people can't quite comprehend that. It's a little confusing.
I think it definitely comes down to them not being profitable most of the time. Like I've known, like even my mentor, for example, Rit, he a lot of the time will joke about like, I don't know how you have time for the content, right? Because he'll trade, he has the family and stuff. He's like, I don't know how you have time for the content. I say, look, it's not easy though. That's one thing. Like in terms of the time, you can have the time quite easily, but in terms of doing it, it's a different story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like you're filming it or having the ideas or editing it, that's a different story, yeah. But time-wise, it's fine. It's just the effort of actually doing it that is the difficult part.
Agreed.
And for most people who, in the beginning, it's much harder. Obviously, once you do it after a long, it's kind of like trading. Obviously, like the more you do it and put in the reps in and get the data, the easier it becomes because it becomes second nature.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, second nature.
That's it. Even then, when you do lots of it, like when you overtrade, that's how I feel right now. I've like overtraded the last few days.
Much so. Get ready for the revenge trading. I don't know what it's going to look like.
I'm gonna save that for Jake afterwards.
Fair.
No, but how important has it been for you, for your routine outside of trading? You know, your discipline outside of trading in your day-to-day life. Have you seen a correlation between that and obviously your trading results as well?
I would say, if I had to be totally honest with you, I don't quite find myself to be like this very disciplined person. That and just trying to figure out, okay, like if someone was to ask me what my routine was, I don't wake up at the same time every day. I don't eat at the same time every day. I don't do the same thing every day. I'm not quite as structured. I would like to be. And obviously there will only come, like, you only benefit from having structure. And I don't know why that's so different from my trading. My trading is just so second nature that I know my entry and I know my exit. And it's different with my personal life. My personal life is it's not as structured, it's not as disciplined. Now, I think maybe it's because I have this obsessive personality to where I'll have a month where I do personal training every single fucking day. I'm like in the gym, I'm in it, I'm working on my nutrition, and then like maybe the next month I will fall off. And then for a few months. So it's like I have this, it could be like me obsessing over these new things. But when it comes to trading, this is one time where it doesn't quite correlate. My trading is it is just second nature. It's like getting in the car and driving. You don't have to be disciplined in your driving. I'm not sure how that quite correlates, but it's just second nature.
Oh, isn't like, you get in the car, you're not thinking about,
you don't have to think about hitting the gas.
as you did when you first started learning.
Yeah. Whereas the
like
discipline in my
autopilot.
life. Yeah, it's autopilot. That's exactly what it is. Whereas my life, to be honest, is also a little bit autopilot. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So there is the difference here where I don't quite find myself as disciplined in my life. Whereas, and this is cool to be in the space because I can see so many there's a lot of men in the space, and they correlate, this crazy amount of discipline will in turn, make your trading better.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the exception, but they talk about, you need to get up at like 5 a.m. You need to go to the gym. You need to eat right. You need to not talk to girls, not party. Obviously, those are probably just the partying thing helps you in all aspects. Of maybe just doing a little bit less of that. But they just preach like this. You need to have this structured lifestyle. Now, this could be totally different because men in anything that they do have to work so much harder, and they have to have this like persona that they are like top dog. So maybe that's the difference, where I don't have to have that persona. I don't have to be at the gym at 6 a.m. and, showing everyone that I am this disciplined, structured person. My trading is just, it doesn't quite correlate. It's trading is trading, and I know my entry, I know my exit. That has its discipline, but in my life, I'm still trying to figure this shit out. I'm going with the flow. Every day is something new. I am working on structure, and I will only benefit if I do, grow more structure or figure out how to incorporate more structure. But that's the only time where I think I'm the exception, or maybe it's just because men and women are so different. It could be a combination of the two.
Do you feel like, as you mentioned, like partying, that's one of the main aspects of the discipline is like, do you party a lot? Do you say, drink or smoke a lot or anything like that? Or is the more like clean living?
I am so far from that. No smoking, no drinking. And maybe it's because I'm 30 years old now and I've already done some of that, a lot of that, early teenage years or early 20s. But it's even having like more than 2 drinks. The way that I'm like, I visualize it now is because I feel it so much more now. Maybe it's because I feel it so much more now. I'm like, wow, I'm going to have 2 drinks. It literally next morning feels like I have just ingested poison into my body. So like, why would I want to do that? It's not fun for me. I have things to do the next day. Like I can't function. I don't like the feeling. So it doesn't make sense anymore. And I'm feeling it so much harder now. So it's not fun for me.
Yeah. So because for me, it's like the structured routine is really good, right? It's really good. But the main aspect is just keeping yourself in a state where you can be focused, right? If necessary, and have clarity of mind. So that's where I think part of the structured routine, you don't have to have a structured routine. I think it can be beneficial, has its benefits. But I think the most important thing is keeping your mind as sharp as possible.
Agreed, yes.
So that's where I think, I either see influencers online where they say they're traders, but they're partying every single day. They're drinking every single day or smoking.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with these things necessarily.
Yeah, we gotta be careful because Jake's coming on next.
Exactly, yeah. So I know people who can smoke, for example, right, every day, and it helps them to operate, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's an exception. I don't think it's like, I think the majority of people couldn't do that.
Yeah, ain't no way.
Right? Because I was one of those people, I couldn't do it. I thought I could.
I was gonna ask, have you ever placed a trade, while drunk or high? Like, did it change your trading? I don't think
High-wise,
I've ever done it.
I assumed there was a point where I was like, yeah, I can see the charts way better. I was trying to convince myself of that, but it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't the case. It was just a fantasy for me to try and convince myself I needed weed.
Yeah,
it was just
or
an
that you're
addiction.
like unlocking something. You're like, okay, maybe if I'm high when I trade, I'll see something that I didn't see before.
Because all it would be if I had a good day, right? If I was profitable, let me reward myself by getting high.
Okay.
If I had a bad day, let me forget about it by getting high. So then it's literally just a coping mechanism, like I think for most people.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people I remember I did a tweet about trying to challenge yourself by just cutting things out, whether it's weed, whether it's coffee,
Oh my God,
To be fair, the biggest one, not coffee, but like caffeine, but like the biggest one was the coffee. Like
Dude,
the
that's
most
hardest thing
backlash.
ever.
Yeah, the most backlash that we got was that.
Oh, they're like, we don't need to cut that out.
Yeah, they were like, I can't live without it. And I was like, that's exactly why you need to cut it out, because if you're saying that, you need to test yourself.
Oh my God. Okay, guilty of this actually on the trip here. So I got my teeth whitened for this trip, and they're like, listen, you can't drink coffee for 2 weeks. I made it 3 days. I'm like, wow, this is a problem. This is a problem. You should be able, like you said, you should be able to cut things out. You can't. Things are healthy with in moderation. So that's not moderate. So cutting that out is incredibly difficult. Wow. Like maybe I can get up early. Maybe I can stop staying up so late. I don't drink or smoke or anything, so that's not hard to cut out. But like, damn, caffeine is so hard to cut out. How wild that we are all so incredibly attached and like addicted to this. But it could only help. Now, obviously, you go probably through withdrawals like similar like you do on drugs, which is pretty funny.
There'll be something.
Yeah, but like
I think it's like normally headaches and stuff like that.
That like lingering like dull headache. I felt it for sure. But I'm sure like afterwards, like the clarity that you have or the freedom that you feel, you're like, wow, I'm not like attached to something. Wild.
That's it. Like, luckily for me, I've never been on caffeine, like, or coffee, should I say? I've always, like, when I was younger, they tried to diagnose me with like ADHD and give me some sort of drugs to sort that out, but my mum said no. But then I've always been hypersensitive to caffeine, so that's why I've never drink coffee or tea or anything like that. So luckily, I've not had that issue. So when I see people, I've always just had high energy. Today, maybe not as much, but I've always had high energy anyway.
Yeah.
But when I see people and they're like, I can't operate, I can't start my day without coffee. It's always confused me, and I always think like then it's like a crutch. Then you're dependent on this thing. Like how? Once if it's not there, once if it disappeared.
Yeah.
Once if the government came in and said caffeine is now illegal.
Everyone's going to be fine. I mean, truly, everyone's going to be fine.
Well, that's the thing. I think there's a quote where they say if they banned tobacco, caffeine, and I think there's one more, maybe alcohol. But I think just those two alone, or even just caffeine alone, there'll be riots. Like, forget all these other things that people should riot over, the way they run the economy or whatever it may be. No. If you ban those things, there'll be riots, and like, there'll be the biggest riots we've ever seen in our lives.
Go figure, right? I know. It's wild.
The world we live in. The world we live in. But obviously, I would guess this isn't your first time in Miami, right?
It is.
It is. Yeah. Same for me. But
okay.
We always hear about Miami, right, in the industry. And we can see why now that we've been here. but you see how there's a lot of the big influencers here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Miami?
I would say I haven't got to explore too much, so I stayed close to the conference. The farthest I went last night was this club called 11. Got my stamp still here. Wow, that was quite an experience. I didn't know what I was getting into. I thought it was like a club. It's going to be cool. No, it's a little bit different. There's some dancing involved there. Not quite my style, but that's okay. But I can see that it makes sense. Miami feels like this flashy place, which what better place to put flashy influencers in Miami, in this flashy place. So it all makes sense, and it's fun. I don't know if it's somewhere, maybe it's like tax-wise and like maybe real estate's cheaper. Like I could absolutely see that if it would benefit me in any way, but I don't know if that's somewhere I would maybe want to settle down or hang out. Visiting is way fun, and having, being able to hang out with all these other influencers and get as much advice as I can. I'll probably be spending a lot of time here because the next steps for me are wanting to I know this is totally taking a segue here, but
that's okay.
The next steps for, I like where I'm at with my trading. I will continue to grow my trading and my capital, but I want something more. So now what does it look like? Is that equity in some business, some company? Is that, owning a broker, owning a prop firm, whatever it may be? What are the next steps? And I'm coming to find I had never even considered in my life that I would even own or have part in a broker or a prop firm or any trading technology thing. I just thought trading was it, and that's going to be it. Well, now that I'm speaking with these other influencers or these other entrepreneurs, they have their hand dipped in everything. They are entrepreneurs, truly. They've got businesses and real estate and equity and companies and so many different things. So that just makes sense for that to be the next step if this is the level I want to get to. So me being here is incredibly helpful because I do get access to these bigger trading influencers, and I get to truly see, yes, this is their trading, and everyone gets to see their trading online, but they maybe don't get to see so much the actual back end of it, the business side, the ownership side, the new companies or partnering or collaborating with companies, or two guys going into business with each other, or there's just, it's so intricate, and I absolutely want to be a part of that. So this is the entrepreneurial side of me, things are firing. So I'm ready to take it to the next step. So what does that look like? So I will probably be spending a lot more time here, getting more advice and figuring out, what do I need to do to get to these bigger levels? And another segue is, now that I have, I've become this content creator, I have built this following, I have been able to create my own little sources of income. Now they're not anywhere close to that level, but I have created more sources of income for myself, which has taken the pressure off of my trading, which has then in turn feel like my trading is doing so much better now. And I've done a few live streams where I'm trying to sit here and live work through, why is my trading growing, or just feeling like I'm hitting these PRs at such a quick rate. And I'm is it because I've made the transition to swing trading? Is it because I now have multiple sources of income? Is it because the pressure has been taking off my trading? I'm trying to analyze what is it? Because this is fascinating. This is so cool. Like in March, I had my biggest trade, and then I had my best month in May. And I'm like, wow, I'm hitting PRs at such a quick rate, and my trading is doing so well. Like, what is it? So, and what's cool is I finally have found a trading journal. So TradeZella was the game changer. Oh my God. I had ledger cards that I would write down in the past. And to be honest, who's actually consistent with that every single trade, especially if you're a day trader placing multiple trades a day. Oh my God, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Now I have something that automates it and I can go back and look. So at the end of this year, I can see, okay, was, my day trading previously compared to my swing trading this year, is that why I'm doing so much better?
Yeah.
So it's crazy cool to have all of that data. But as far as like me trying to figure out how my trading is doing better, that's going to help me figure this out.
Definitely. And in terms of like the TradeZella, for example, the depth, how have you found like the depth of the stats, the different levels to the stats?
Oh, it's so incredibly intricate. I could dissect every single trade, even going back to the trade replay feature. You can kind of relive that trade that you were in. So, and I'm incredibly analytical. So I tried to do some marketing stuff back in the day. So I would, have to figure out Google Analytics and, why are people coming to this website and what are they clicking on? So being able to dissect my trade is absolutely the coolest thing ever.
Definitely. No, definitely. And I was interested, like, what other source of income have you created for yourself now?
So being an influencer, there's obviously like the views on YouTube. And I think people have an idea that YouTube influencers make maybe a lot more than they truly do. Like you and I, we've got maybe we could call ourselves micro influencers. I mean, just compared to the big guys, we don't have millions. We've got like maybe almost 50 to 60. You're getting close to 50. You probably will have 60.
By the time this comes out, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See, and so my goal is to like maybe have 100 by the end of the maybe next few months. We'll see how like the traction goes. But I think people think we make a lot more on YouTube than we truly do. But it is a source of income. It's not as much as I want it to be yet. I sold a course. Am selling a course. I'm trying to migrate to masterminds now. So I'm trying to take away, all of the different things. Do I want to buy your course? Do I want to do your mentorship? Do I want to do one-on-ones? So I'm kind of trying to have one thing there. So views from social media, whether that be Instagram, they give you bonuses. Whether that's YouTube from views. I was making money on TikTok at one point for views. Totally different industry though. It was for doing my hair. I tried to convert those girls into trading. They don't give a shit at all. They were like, no, bring the hair back. We don't want to see these charts. So I'm working on a mastermind soon. What else? I guess that's it. Just all of the sources of income that come with like being a trading influencer. The course, which you get bashed for. You sell a course, you're not truly a trader. You're not truly profitable. Or, mentoring people. Using YouTube or these views for sources of income. So those are my sources now, and they're helping alleviate the pressure for my actual trading. It's absolutely the coolest thing ever.
No, definitely, because obviously then now you don't need trading. Has that been the shift then?
Isn't that wild? When you truly, it's crazy this whole cycle you go through as a trader. You work this hard to be a full-time trader. You're a full-time trader. Then, whatever it is, your other endeavors, whether that's like real estate or being an entrepreneur or getting these other sources of income, you truly realize that you do get into trading so that you can pursue these other endeavors. So it's crazy to kind of come full circle and be like, oh, wow. So I got into trading so that I could pursue these other endeavors. Now I'm pursuing these other endeavors. So I don't technically need trading anymore, but my trading is oddly doing so much better than I've ever done. Like, isn't this a wild cycle how it works? So this is all still new to me. So I'm coming to find this all, and I'm incredibly excited about all of it.
No, definitely. And going back to the summit, for example, like you said, you obviously got a chance to meet a lot of these big influencers, for example. Was there anyone who's like stood out to you?
I would say, so many. Emil was the most wow. Like the ending ceremony, how incredibly talented he is outside of even trading. The fact that he was able to, have the crowd like so engaged and so connected, and going from like Spanish to English, and this motivation that he sparked in everyone. I think I'm truly taken back. Like, wow, what an amazing, genuine guy. So I'd say that he's probably my favorite so far.
Incredible. And what was it like actually then being around all these different influencers you've probably been watching? For a long time.
Oh yeah. So cool. And I'm coming to find that like social media gives some of these influencers like a completely different they've just like there's this stigma that they've given like each of these traders, and then when you finally meet them in person, you're like, wow, why did I even believe what anyone else said about you? Like, it's just coming to find these traders are actually genuine people, and they truly want to help you, and they want to see you succeed. Now, maybe I'm lucky because I am one of the few females in the industry, so these other influencers do truly want to see me succeed. It's got to be the coolest thing, like to be helped that much and to have such a community of people that truly do want to see you succeed, and not only just to get more women into it, but just to see that like I'm one of the few, and I'm still here, and I'm still making it. Because making it in trading alone is hard. So to be a female in it is even harder. So to have these people that are like rooting for me, I cannot even be any more grateful. It's the coolest thing ever.
Definitely. And what was it like having sort of the people come up to you? People probably coming up to you. I remember obviously your tweet beforehand, and loads of people were like, I want to take a picture of you. So what was that like?
Life-changing. It truly was. I'm gonna be honest with you. Somebody asked me. It might have been you in like the mini series that we did on the yacht. I said this is like the best weekend of my life. It is so life-changing. You don't understand like the impact that you're making. It's just crazy. People care what I have to say. How freaking cool. Not only do they care what I have to say, but they know who I am and they admire me. That's just like my heart right now is just like racing. It is the coolest thing. It's like I can't be more excited. Like, how cool to see that you're truly making an impact for these traders, even if it's on such a small level. Me talking about psychology, or me like talking about how angry I am at like FOMO, whatever it may be, like expressing the realness in trading. I just had no idea it was making that much of an impact. It's truly the coolest. I can't even express it enough to you, like how on cloud 9 I am.
Would you say that counteracts the negative side that we discussed earlier?
In every way, shape, or form. In every way. It's so cool. I got to experience a little bit of this when Chart Addicts did these little workshops in like Atlanta, New York, and some other places. There was a point where I maybe was ready to just kind of separate myself from social media. I was letting the comments get to me. It was not fun. I started to hate my community. I was like, this is toxic. You guys are making me feel awful. Like, now obviously you take the negative comments so much more seriously, and even though there's less of them, you take them so personally. So there was a point where I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't even think I like this community. Like, ew, awful. But then when you go to places like this, these are the true representation of your community. This is the true representation of why you are being a transparent trader. You are talking about psychology. You are being real about your emotions in trading. You're truly making a difference to these people. And then now the view that I'm going to come back with going home, like making content, it's going to be for them. God, it's going to be so cool. It's going to be so great.
No, definitely. It's very interesting what you said there as well in terms of this is the actual community. Because I was just literally thinking then that, yes, you're right in terms of it being a minority most of the time, if not all the time, of the negative comments, but they're just louder.
So loud.
But then in person, they don't show up because they only do that behind the screen.
Okay,
right?
exactly,
so easy
yes.
to do. So like it would be extremely, extremely rare for you to ever have a hater in person, for example, at a meetup. But what would you say in terms of meetups? Because obviously, as you said, you did those small workshops that you went to, and then obviously the big FX Summit, for example. But I imagine there's probably are quite regular, depending where you're from, but quite regular opportunity of small gatherings, even if they're small. But how important would you say that, meeting up and networking and taking that action is for a trader?
I would say I don't personally have too much experience with it. I've never like put on my own meetup or done like a meet and greet or a community. I don't know if that's maybe because it's a little intimidating being a woman in the space, or just being like a woman influencer. Like, it's a little bit scary to kind of just be like, hey guys, here I am. Let's meet up. It's a little bit intimidating. Whereas a place like this, I feel safe. Like this is an organization. There's a lot of people here. So I don't know. I think it's truly important for a lot of people, but I don't know if it's something that I want to get too much into. Maybe if I find the right process or find help to do it, I think it truly could be incredibly important, just because it makes it like it's tangible. Like these other traders can see that you're real. You're a person. You're experiencing the same emotions, and to have someone to talk to about it. It's very different to have a conversation online. Now I know that's incredibly helpful. Regardless, you're giving information online, but to sit in front of somebody and talk to them and like be able to release some of that emotion or get like these endorphins or the serotonin of like, wow, we share the same passion. We go through the same emotions. So I think truly meeting up and talking about it is really important. I just maybe need to find like a good process to do that for me.
Yeah. Would you be like up for attending other, say,
very much so.
summits or meetups?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Because I think you'd be probably quite good at hosting an event.
That was my first time when I did that panel.
That panel yesterday.
Oh yeah.
How was that?
Oh my God.
It's weird, isn't it? 'Cause obviously, like, you do the content stuff, and
Yeah.
everyone would assume, like for me, for example, everyone would probably assume that I'm very confident and talk to everyone. I'm a confident person, but I'm very introverted. Like, I don't talk to people.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
in terms like strangers, I won't like just actively go up to people. If someone approaches me, I'll talk to them, no problem.
Yeah.
But I won't go out my way to go talk to people like that. So then I did a panel.
Okay.
And I was fine with the panel, but it's like it's so different than a podcast. You know,
It's definitely not the same.
It's not the same.
How did you do in front of the audience? Like,
I was okay.
feeling wise.
Well, it was funny because I went on stage and Roy was on stage and Roy goes, he asked me on stage, he goes, do you want me to introduce them or do you want to introduce
He asked
them?
me the same thing.
And I went, you introduce them.
Yeah, please, by all means.
That's it. But I feel bad because I should have just introduced them and then that would have like maybe helped with the energy. So then instead I had to stand there awkwardly like.
Okay, dude, that makes me feel so much better. I did the same freaking thing. Yeah. And to be honest, I was still standing when everyone sat down. Like, I couldn't have made it any more awkward. And then I even talked about how nervous I was. I'm like, shit, Tori, shut up. Just talk.
Well, I messed up because I asked a question and then one of the guys said, oh, what did you ask? Because he forgot. And then I was like, well, I forgot what I asked.
No.
I tried to put it back and I said, well, I'm sorry, I forgot. I said, I'm good at I said to the crowd, I'm good at podcasts, but this is something else.
Dude, you just made me feel so much better. I was overanalyzing my whole panel. I'm like, wow, Tori, you could have done so much better. What's going on? Come on, shake it off.
Well, just as I was getting in the flow of it, they cut us off. Like, they cut it short. We were meant to have 45 minutes. I think we had like 20 minutes because of delays and stuff.
Okay.
But it was good. It was a good opportunity. You know what? I knew beforehand. It's all in your head anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
truly.
Like, if you literally went up there and just acted like yourself, you'd probably be fine.
Yeah.
You know? It's just the nature of like 1,000 people being there. When in reality, the lights are that bright, you can only see the first two rows
That helps
anyway.
so much.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that helps so much.
But it was fun. But like, what about yourself? How did you find it? I know obviously you're saying that, you know, you're nervous.
So I got in a little bit early, so I got to sit there and just get worked up. I'm like twiddling my thumbs, like,
That makes
oh
it
my God,
worse.
heart, slow down, you're good. And I'm drinking coffee. I'm like, no, I probably shouldn't drink any more of this. I'm getting jittery. I think that made it worse. So I'm like building up the energy here and the nervousness or the excitement. And I go up on stage. Roy asks the same thing. He's like, do you want to introduce them or me? And I'm like, you go ahead, do it. So I'm like standing there awkwardly while he introduces everybody. And then I didn't even remember if he had introduced Anthony as well. So he introduced Q, and then they're sitting down, and I'm like awkwardly standing up. I'm like, oh wait, did we introduce you, Anthony? Like, where was I? Where was I for that whole? Who knows? Just in my own head.
Yeah.
And I could like feel my voice getting shaky, and I know I've got a knack for it, and I know I've got a talent for it. Maybe I just got to do it a few times because once I sat down and I was like, oh my God, this is easy. Conversational. Everyone was like, wow, that was amazing. You asked great questions. And I'll be honest with you. And I don't know if you had like a set list of questions that you had to ask. And if you, okay, good. I did have a set list of questions.
I winged it.
Okay, so did I. Ain't no way I'm sitting here being nervous and trying to remember all this. That's not going to happen. So, and I kind of felt bad. I threw Q off. He had this list of questions and he was like, okay, he had notes ready and prepared. He's like, okay, cool. He's got this. And maybe that's how some people operate. Anthony, obviously, opposite. He's going to go in and wing everything he does. And then Q is probably very analytical. He's like, okay, I need to plan this. I'm comfortable. This is how I operate. I had to wing it. So I probably threw him for a loop. But it was genuine questions. It made it very conversational. I asked stuff that I truly was interested about and how cool that I got to be a part of the entrepreneurial panel. So I got to ask, okay, how did trading help you get into, starting these other businesses or these other companies? How did you figure out how to run a business? How do you have teams? So I was truly fascinated, interested, because that's the path that I want to take. So once I sat down, God, it was amazing. I know I've got a knack for it. I just I could prepare a little bit more, and the practice will come with it. But I loved it. Regardless of me, being self-critical, I had a blast doing it. I was on a high when I got off the stage. It was so cool.
That's it. Yeah, no, you're not wrong there. The energy is different, and it's interesting because I want to put myself into more of those situations. But this is what I was saying about hosting events. There's not really that many events for the retail space.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of summits.
Okay.
The summits are always for like
The
just
brokers.
the big time brokers and the liquidity providers and like things that we're probably interested in. And
Yeah.
they would never want us to speak.
They're like, God, no.
So it does make me interested in terms of like hosting events and or at least trying to seek out more events. Well, we're looking to do a boxing fight, so
Oh my God,
host that.
stop it right now.
remember I asked you the question.
You did. Get this. Funny story. Okay, so I go back and tell James, I was like, hey, so I said I was going to fight you in this little mini interview that Riz did. And he was like, I'm going to knock you out. And I was like, I picked you because I knew you weren't. I was like, damn, I got my shit. Okay.
He's energized.
Very much so. It was hilarious. To be honest, though, I had so much fun watching that. I don't know who. So this is cool about coming to this event because some of these guys I didn't know. And so now I get to see some of these new influencers and these new personalities, and like there are really fun personalities in this industry. So it's incredibly cool to be connected with these people. But this kind of leads me to I had a question for you. So since we're speaking on like there's not many events, and especially in the US there's only one event here. And I'm making these more connections, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is like the trading community like in the UK or like in London? Is it everyone tells me that if they did an event out there, people are like not as flashy and showy. They don't really want to have an event. Like what is your idea on trying to make an event like this happen where you're at?
You could have the event. You probably could. There's a lot of traders in the UK.
I heard more so than the US, yeah?
I don't know about more because
Okay.
we're tiny.
Well,
we're
yeah,
literally nothing.
yeah.
I think it's perception based because we in the UK will look at the US and say, "Whoa, there's so many traders. That's where all the traders are at." And it was weird because I was speaking to Raul yesterday, and they said the same thing. Like UK is where the hub's at, and I was like, "It's not the case."
Oh, okay, all right.
Apparently, I think the most traders are actually in Asia. I think they're in like Malaysia and those sort of countries.
Okay.
But yeah, like the UK, you could host an event, but they're very reserved in the UK. So like.
Okay.
You know, when I was doing the mini podcasts, I had like these two. I remember these two girls in particular, but I did have like just random people who aren't influencers in that sense,
Nice.
or not even profitable, maybe, but
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
speak to them. If that was in the UK, they would never sit down. They would never sit down. They're just too reserved. They're too overthinking it. It's too nervous. But
Okay.
these girls like were naturals. They were there talking, and enjoying it, and not just them, but loads of others.
Yeah.
I didn't have a UK person on, There was
Okay.
one guy who was from the UK who came up and said, "Oh, hi," and I said, "Oh, come on," and he was no, and
Go
I just-
figure.
and so that would be the difference in the event.
Now I'm wondering, is that attributed to like this like scammer condensation, or like maybe are there more?
It's just the general, like even if not just like with these events, like if I went to the Broadway show, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Yes.
So I watched it twice. I watched it once in New York and once in London. In London, that was the first time I watched it, and it finishes. Everyone's nice. That's it. In New York, it's a whole different. Like
Standing
everyone's going,
ovation.
everyone's going crazy, and even
Wow.
throughout, and
Okay,
that's the
okay.
difference. You see, that's
Okay,
when
I
I
see.
recognized the difference between like the culture,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the mindset. Because even here in the US, like people are more approachable, they're more talkative. While in the UK, they're more reserved. Not that they're not friendly, but they're just more reserved.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be a bit more. People would be a bit reluctant, I would say, to like be if someone with like high energy, just unless they were American. If they were American, they would accept it because it's like, oh, he's American.
Yeah. Okay. I
she's
see.
American, but
I see.
but if there's another UK person, like, why is this person talking to me for?
Okay.
So they're a bit more reserved. Saying that though, I have hosted nowhere near an event like this, but I've hosted like mini meetups,
Okay.
multiple times, and people turn up, and I think the major thing is people just have to host them. Honestly, that's all it is.
Somebody's gonna put the
Someone-
effort to put it on.
Yeah, it's like Roy. Like if Roy didn't, no one else is going to do that.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
And that's why you see Roy running around, going crazy, having the stress.
God.
And we get to enjoy it. And this is
True.
why this is what I said to him on the mini pod that we did. I said, look, you had to sacrifice so that everyone else can have the connections. Everyone
Yeah.
else can create their content.
How wild that he put this on so that I could experience a life-changing weekend.
Exactly.
Like it's wild. I had to let him know too. I'm like, listen, I know you are running around. I didn't even get to say hey to you or like much because I know you have you got to make sure A plus B plus C everything's getting done, everything's getting checked off. But like how cool that, well, not cool, but very interesting how somebody had to go through so much stress in order for me to have the best weekend of my life. Like that's wild.
Honestly, no, it's interesting how that works, But that's what I mean. Like it takes someone taking action. It takes them taking action. I'm interested to see what they do next year. I hear rumors. That they're looking at multiple locations.
Oh, yeah, I've heard,
One
I've
in the
heard.
east. So if they're in the east, I'll be there. So.
Oh, me too. I'll be there.
Well, to
Absolutely.
be fair, I'll be at any of them. To be fair,
Yeah,
if I
same,
get invited,
same,
if I
same.
get invited. But yeah, so like we're coming towards the end of our time now, and I always ask her. We didn't do it on the mini pods because they're just quick, but I would call them quick fire questions. And there's one question that I ask every guest, and that is, if you could meet anyone from the past or even in the present, famous or not, just to spend time with and learn from, who would it be and why?
God, I feel like I should have this. I should know this. Who would it be? If it was to help me reach my goals and to figure out how I can get to this point that I want to get to, if I wanted to meet anybody, it would be for the knowledge. Who would it be? There's just so many. There's so many.
Who's the first one that comes up?
I mean, this is.
What's the image in the mind?
Oddly, I don't know why, but it's Elon Musk. I just feel like he knows how to make shit happen. He's like incredibly intuitive. He's like he can make anything happen. He's like truly leading the way for the future. I mean, yes, there is so much like negative feedback on him, and he's a little bit crazy, and I get that. I mean, I guess you have to be. But I'd guess it would have to be Elon Musk. He would help me get to wherever I need to be. Whatever vision I had, he'd make it happen.
That's true. And we've had him a few times, to be fair, in terms of the answer.
Oh, yeah? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay.
No, because he's doing incredible stuff. Yeah, he's doing incredible stuff, especially on Twitter recently as well, in terms of like free media.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see. Really, really good to see. But it makes complete sense. And what would be your goals moving forward? Not even moving forward, what is your end goal? Where is it that you want to end up? Say, when you're looking back on your life, what does that image look like?
It is truly like family oriented. It is, as long as my family can be comfortable, I want to build an amazing family. I want to have like multiple kids. I'm one of 4 girls, and this like the connection that we have and like the fact that how close we are, it's a big family is so much fun. Oh, so much fun. I want to build like this strong, big family that like my kids are visionaries. I want to have a partner that's like a visionary himself, but like incredibly supportive. Like I want to have a comfortable, like life-changing family. This family that's like just a force to be reckoned with. That's my goal, to be honest. My ultimate goal is to get us to the comfortability and maybe create this generational wealth where my kids will have the ability to not have to think about, working a 9-to-5 ever. Their focus can purely be on like innovating and like creating something incredibly cool for themselves, whatever hobbies they get into. So my goals are 100% family based through and through.
I love that. I love to hear that. And we'll finish up with this last one then. So what would be your advice to people out there? I think we did one on our mini podcast already, so I'm trying to make sure I don't repeat it, but I'm going to do a different one then. What would be your advice to people out there who are second guessing, holding themselves back from starting something, whether that be content creation, whether that be trading? Okay. But they're holding themselves back. They're allowing themselves to talk themselves out of it.
I would say, and this is a great last question because it kind of leads into this thing that I'm trying to push myself. And I do kind of want to gear it towards content creation and trading in this niche, because I think if people can kind of drop that wall and like that being nervous about or just the vulnerability, if they can kind of remove some of that vulnerability and document their journey, I kind of want to encourage more people to be content creators. Now, whether you do it in your own way, maybe you don't have to be in front of a camera. Maybe it's, documenting it via Twitter or like words or photos, whatever it is. I really want to encourage people to document it, because you had mentioned earlier about how these real traders that do make it aren't very loud. And there's not many of them. If we can encourage more people to be loud or to document their journey so that there's not this negative connotation on like traders. Because it's truly, if you tell anyone that's not into trading that you're a trader, they think that you gamble, they think you're a scammer. Like, I want to get rid of that. So how do we like flush those people out? And I think we do that by encouraging more people to truly document their trading journey so that people truly know maybe they were watching John or, Lisa, whoever they were watching on this journey. They saw that, wow, it took this person 3 years to become profitable, or it took this person 5 years, or maybe this person made it in a year. But like, to see that it's truly this process to like, it takes dedication and it takes time. And to see these people go through these ups and downs and these emotions and these pivotal moments where they can continue to trade, or maybe they quit. Maybe they see people document their journey and then they are like, listen, I can't do it anymore. So to make it more real, I want to truly encourage more people to share the journey so that we can truly build a real version of trading.
Definitely. No, I love to hear that. And I hope people listen because, again, as we said, we need more real people to be active. And it's not about, I think there's a misconception that you're trying to provide value all the time, for example.
Yeah.
Or trying to sell something.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You can literally just post, like I post, majority of my posts before I did anything like this was just quotes and messages to myself, and even if I look back now to a post from 8 years ago, for example, on Facebook, it will say, maybe like a time when I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I'll read the words that I wrote when I was depressed, and I'll be like, okay, that was a message. That's how you felt. You remember how you felt, but now you don't feel that way. You're not that way anymore. It allows you to be have gratitude.
How wild.
But then also you can see where, okay, maybe you're feeling not depressed, but maybe down right now. You're having a bad day, and you read something where you're like, the opposite, a message that you wrote to yourself, or just generally how you were feeling that day, where you were inspired or you did some really great work.
Yeah.
And it can just be as simple as that. Really, if anything, that's where it should be first. If you end up off the back of that wanting to be provide value or to sell something, that's fine. No problem. But I think that's where everyone should begin. Just as you said, document your journey for yourself. You essentially, it will help others as a byproduct.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's a message to your future self from your past self. It's like a time travel. That's what I say.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely.
I love that. But thank you, Tori, for your time.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't easy after all the days that we've had with the summit, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I will have your links in the description below. And everyone, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment. As always, thank you for tuning in. I don't know when this will come out. Maybe we would have crossed 50,000 subscribers, I imagine, by then. But we thank you for all your support always. Check out the links, and otherwise, catch you on the next one.